Hey everyone, it's Michael. Just a little while ago, a little less than 2 hours ago, I made a review. Well, not really a review, I would call it, since my channel is focused on Goosebumps, the old R.L. Stine book series and TV shows and all that stuff. I do a series called Things Like Goosebumps. That's why the title says Things Like Goosebumps, and then the title of this movie, that which will not be named. I did a video like less than 2 hours ago talking about how much I absolutely love and adore excuse me, a Scooby-Doo film called Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island from 1998. Incredible film. I absolutely recommend it. If you haven't seen it before, if you love Scooby-Doo, or even if you're new to Scooby-Doo or you've never seen it before, this is incredible. Kids and adults can love this and absolutely just fall in love with how much fun this was. Everything from the incredible soundtrack to the acting being so fun. It was so humorous. It had so many good jokes that stuck with me my entire life. This is one of my top, 5 animated films of all time. And from what I've heard, too, the more research I do on Zombie Island, apparently this saved Scooby-Doo as a franchise at one point. And it doesn't surprise me. This is easily my favorite. Either this or the Witch's Ghost, which is, I think, the next film after this in 1999. Both of those films are absolutely incredible. I can't wait to, God willing, be able to sit down and watch Witch's Ghost and do a review on it. But of course, at about 20 years later, about 21 years later, this week, a new film came out for Scooby-Doo, and I don't really keep up with Scooby-Doo. I thought maybe it'd be interesting, once I saw this at Walmart the other day, to pick up this sequel and do a Things Like Goosebumps video for both of the films, after I watched both. And the sequel that came out this week is called Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island. I don't even have words. I don't even have words. If you thought Last Jedi was insulting, if you thought Seed of Chucky was an insulting film, if you thought Freddy's Dead was insulting, or Curse of Michael Myers was insulting, or anything like that, you have no clue. You have no clue what it's like to be a giant fan of Zombie Island and then to get this piece of crap when you're an adult. And one of your biggest, most favorite episodes, or not an episode, it's a TV movie, or DVD, straight-to-video movie, whatever. This movie, Zombie Island, that meant so much to me growing up, is slapped in the face so hard by this awful monstrosity, this awful cash cow grab that they've made with Zombie Island. And according to some of the reviews I've watched so far, I didn't know this is how far Scooby-Doo had fallen. I didn't realize what 2019 politically correct nonsense had done to Goosebumps. The kind of humor in this movie is the kind of humor and the kind of situational sequelitis, if you will, that the kind of writers at Marvel Comics now, the SJW writers, would come up with. No, I wouldn't say there's any SJW attitudes or comments or anything like that in the film. There's definitely not. I would say there's not. But the kind of humor, it got me at first. It took me a little while to kind of get used to the animation style. I hate mixing hand-drawn animation with CGI animation. I think it's the ugliest, most disturbingly stupid looking animation that could exist on this planet. A big reason why I'm not a fan of Dragon Ball Super. I cannot stand mixing CGI with hand-drawn animation. It doesn't look good. Everybody who tries to say that it does cannot defend it. It looks horrible. And that's throughout this entire film. The humor in this movie, again, it feels like a bunch of teenagers wrote this movie. They're talking about, well, not even teenagers, let's say elderly folk who want to impress teenagers by saying things like the word blog in the script. I don't think most kids watching this film would know what a blog is, but most of them probably haven't even seen Zombie Island. This is a film that should be made for fans of Scooby-Doo and the scarier aspects from Zombie Island, which I was looking forward to. I can't even tell you how excited I was for this film when I found it the other day and bought it. I have been thinking about this movie for 2 days now. I finally got a chance to sit down and watch it tonight after reviewing the first film. And honest to God, man, I don't even have words for how crushed I feel. I mean, again, it's like The Last Jedi all over again. It's like how I was such a big fan of the first Amazing Spider-Man film, and then that terrible second film came out. What? How do you mess up not only Scooby-Doo with the tone and the atmosphere and the creepiness, but how do you sink this low in making animated films and being this brainless? You know, Scooby-Doo has always stuck to a formula. We all know the formula. I don't have to go into that. But at least some of the stuff was scary. The original show I thought was scary. Then there was the fun, really genius comedic aspects of A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, which I really love. I'm currently watching what I think for the first time I'm watching. I might have seen pieces here and there throughout my life, but Scooby-Doo and the 13 Ghosts, I think is the title of the old show from like the 80s. I'm having a bomb watching it. I think it's great. It's really fun. I heard from people that I watched reviews of that the new film that came out that completed that series, the final film that was the 13th Ghost, I heard it's the same thing as this. I just heard that tonight when I started looking at reviews for this movie because I was so dumbfounded halfway through this movie by how awful it is that I needed to know. And other people started mentioning the 13th Ghost, so I'm hoping that it won't be like that. I know that a lot of people would take the title Things Like Goosebumps and assume that this is going to be a positive review. It's really not. I just kind of want to give my thoughts on things that are like Goosebumps, the R.L. Stine book series, the TV show, the movies, the games, all that stuff. Because Scooby-Doo is kind of like that, and a lot of other things I talk about are kind of like that. But even so, this is just insane. I don't even have words for how anyone could defend this movie. I don't. If you're a genuine fan of the original Zombie Island, I don't know how you could get to this. And just to talk about the story a little bit, right? So in the original film, they're trying to hint so much to being so much like that first film, and they suck. They suck so bad at trying to be like the original movie. I hate to be that violent and rude here. This might be the biggest rant I've ever had on my channel. But seriously, how did they go this low? How? How did you sink this low? How did you sink the Scooby ship this low? Anyway, the story. Basically, with all of the self-referential humor about, oh, it's like that one time we went to that other zombie island. That's the kind of humor in this film. Just stupid, poking themselves in the jaw type nonsense. But anyway, basically Scooby and Shaggy are so tired of going on adventures and these mysteries and stuff to solve because they're typically used as bait. They just kind of want one vacation where they don't have to do any kind of mysteries or any kind of investigations or anything like that. They just want one time that they can just enjoy a good time away from home because they basically disbanded Mystery Inc. Yeah, so they're kind of trying to tailgate the first Zombie Island film when that happened and they all went their own separate ways and they all got back together again. I thought and kind of assumed that they were back together after that point. I guess not. I guess this film was either ignoring all the history between 1998 and now, or these are the ends, like the bookends of Scooby-Doo as a franchise. I don't know what it comes to with canon. I don't think I don't think Scooby-Doo has any canon for that matter. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't think it matters to most people. But basically, Mystery Inc. is still disbanded. And Scooby and Shaggy and Velma and Daphne and Fred are still hanging out at malt shops and everything else, but they sold the Mystery Machine. Fred sold the Mystery Machine. That didn't even really happen in the first film. Like, they have this modified, cooler, more modern RV almost like looking Mystery Machine. But it was still the Mystery Machine. It was more for Daphne's TV show, but still. And then you have this. What? I don't even have words to describe how I feel about this movie. I hate it. I genuinely hate it. There are aspects, like little jokes here and there at the beginning that I tried to grow used to. And again, it's just that dumb humor. That's just that idea that kids are not smart enough to enjoy well thought out, fun entertainment. For example, one of my favorite cartoons of all time is the Spider-Man animated series from the 90s. It's so sarcastic. The way Christopher Daniel Barnes plays Spider-Man and Peter Parker there, he's very sarcastic, very witty. His delivery on the jokes and everything that he has to deliver are fantastic in the script. The way they're written, the way he delivers them, the performances are always really good, from my opinion. And yet, then you get something like this that is so... It's so obviously a cash grab. Nobody seemed to care about this. It almost explains away nonsense, trying to explain away the original mystery of the first film, Zombie Island. I don't understand why anybody would have any appeal for this. I don't understand why the creators find the necessity to keep slapping us all in the face and saying that, hey, you know, remember that old film you loved so much 20 years ago? It actually isn't the way you thought it was. All the constant self-referencing is fine, for the most part. For the most part. We get a little too meta at times, in my opinion. But it just... This film has nothing going for it. And don't even get me started on the music. They're trying so hard from the beginning of the film to put in music that would be as vibrant and as interesting as the music from the original Zombie Island film, the VHS tape I showed you at the beginning of this video. And it's so unfitting. You can tell it was a post-production thing where they decided to add it in to try to make these more interesting. But it's horrible. It's genuinely awful because they can't get down. They don't understand what made Zombie Island so good. Either they didn't care and they just wanted a cash grab, which is usually the case. This feels like the same kind of situation as what happened with Batman and Harley Quinn, the animated film, if you happen to see that. Where it was like supposed to be a reference to all the fans of the 90s animated show for Batman, and they had like the art style, and they had Bruce Timm involved, and then they had that horrible storyline about Batman and Harley Quinn and Nightwing hanging out, and it was just disgustingly foul and stupid from the get-go, and it was childish. That's the biggest thing the biggest thing about it that bothered me, especially with this film too. They were childish. And Scooby-Doo has always been childish, but like I said, the original show was creepy, Zombie Island is creepy, the Witch's Ghost film is creepy. There's a lot of stuff out there. Then there's the fun, campy, horror cameo reference stuff, like in Scooby-Doo and the 13 Ghosts TV show. A Pup Named Scooby-Doo is very humorous, but also fun. It's a fun, cartoony, more of a cartoony style. It's kind of like when they did the Three Stooges cartoon show. That's what A Pup Named Scooby-Doo reminds me more of, whereas the original show from the 60s reminds me of more like just a fun Nancy Drew type thing for kids. I'm just so dumbfounded by how awful this movie is. I don't even have words for it. Everything about it, even the coloring for the characters and stuff, are just horrible. And don't even get me started on the performances. Frank Welker, I love him as Fred. He's playing Scooby-Doo here. I'm assuming this is probably not the first time he's played Scooby-Doo. I know he's playing Scooby-Doo in the new Scoob movie that's coming out. Frank Welker's terrible here. I mean, he just... Not so much as Fred. The self-humor stuff in the script makes him terrible. But he, Frank Welker can act. We all know that. It's not his fault this time. We all know it's not his fault. But as Scooby-Doo, he's bad. I don't like his version of Scooby-Doo, in my opinion. Matthew Lillard comes back to play Shaggy. I didn't know that he had been playing Shaggy after the original live-action films. You know, the guy from Scream. He's been playing Shaggy off and on for years now. I didn't know that. I thought he had just stopped after the live-action films, and I like him. He's still good here. He's not as good as Casey Kasem, of course, who did the original voice and everything. I prefer Casey Kasem Shaggy to anybody else's Shaggy. But I like Matthew Lillard. I think he's good. I think he's a fantastic actor. I'm really thankful that his career blossomed out past Scream and past Scooby-Doo and all those things. But, yeah, I'm glad that he's still doing the voice. I think he's good here. Daphne is fine. I don't even know the actress who plays her. We have an amazing cameo from one of the biggest horror icons ever, and I was so shocked that this person was in this movie. I'm sure that everybody probably already knows about it. I didn't have a clue, so I don't want to tell you about it when you go into this film in case you want to see the movie still, but I was shocked because I love this person. Totally dumbfounded that of all people they'd put this person in a Scooby-Doo film, but they did, and that was awesome in my opinion. So there was one saving grace of this movie. The chick playing Velma, she's horrible. She apparently plays Velma pretty often now. She's pretty much the Velma now. Her voice is so grating. And Velma even, they wrote her in a way that she is so just rude. Like, she's always a know-it-all here. She's usually a skeptic. Yeah, we're all familiar with that. But she's not a jerk about knowing things and about suspecting things, right? Again, I prefer Velma in, like, the original series and, like, the A Pup Named Scooby-Doo series where she's a younger kid and stuff. But like this is not Velma. Don't ruin Velma for me. Don't do that. This show, this movie, whatever you want to call this, Return to Zombie Island nonsense. This might be a rant. I'm going to go ahead and call it a rant. This is horrible. This is such a slap in the face. I don't even want to keep this in my zombie collection. Listen to me. I don't even want to keep this in my DVD collection. This is so freaking awful. And such a disappointment. It's not even one of those things where it's misunderstood. You know, there are films out there that a lot of people hate that I think are misunderstood, like Fantastic Four, the remake with Josh Trank directing and all that. There Terminator Genesis that I love to death. That people just don't understand what they were doing. I just don't. I get if you don't like it, it's fine. But if you don't understand it, I don't think there's any chance for you to enjoy it a lot of the time. I'm not saying that's always the case for why people hate the film, or films for that matter. But with this is a great example of a film that should be hated, and should be absolutely torn apart critically. And no one seems to care about it, and I don't blame them. I don't. If I had to rate Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island on a 5-star basis, we had that one cameo that we liked, or that I liked. There is a couple of jokes that got me here. I like the reference to Zombie Island that's really kind of useless by the end of the film. Everything else I hate about it. And I like Matthew Lillard being here, and Frank Welker's good on the Fred aspect. That's about it. This movie's horrible. It's horrible. Seriously. I'd give it a 2 out of 5 stars. I'd be embarrassed if I put this out under my own Warner Brothers logo. I would be embarrassed if I put this out. You're not making money off of this. If you had made a genuine, really good sequel to that first film, I think people would have paid a lot of money for it. But this kind of thing gets a reputation for people like Warner Brothers, and it gets out there, and people don't respect you at that point. They don't want to pick up any more Scooby-Doo stuff. It's kind of like when you guys started working with the WWE. Nobody wanted that. You know, we'd had cameos in the Scooby-Doo universe and stuff before that, but nobody wanted that, you know. Now we have this. What were you thinking? You know, this is ridiculous, man. Anyway, 2 out of 5 stars for me. What are your thoughts on Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island? Do you love the first film? Do you, for some whatever reason, do you love this movie? Do you hate it as much as I do? What are your thoughts? Put them down below. And I'm sorry if you were caught and tricked. This is what I want to say, just like how I was, and you're as disappointed as I am. Because this is just insane. What are your thoughts, guys? Put them down below. Thank you for watching, and may the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and goodbye.